Jeet Adani is the youngest son of Indian billionaire Gautam Adani. As part of the tycoon's succession plan, the 26-year-old engineer is overseeing the running of 7 airports across the country, including the one in India's financial capital, Mumbai. The Adani Group is also building a brand new airport for the city at a cost of $2 billion. Along with airports, Jeet is responsible for the defense business, while also looking after the group's digital initiatives. The youngest of the next generation of Adani leaders is being groomed to run big parts of an empire that's been rocked in recent years. In early 2023, just a few years after Jeet joined the family business, a report published by short seller Hindenburg Research accused the company of fraud and share price manipulation. It sparked a $150 billion meltdown in shares of group companies. The Adanis have denied the allegations, and their shares have recovered, but they're still dealing with the fallout. Bloomberg's Anto Antony spoke exclusively with Jeet Adani and asked him how the group's strategies have changed.
You had just joined the business when the Hindenburg report came out. How did it affect you personally, and what role did you play in that crisis situation?
I think it was definitely, personally speaking, a very stressful and tough time. Emotions were high. But I think the most important thing that was on my mind definitely was, what can I do to support, obviously, the family? But more than that, how do I support the larger family, which is the employees? Because the biggest risk that you run in times like these is demotivation. People, sort of losing hope. And to make sure that everyone is motivated, everyone knows that what we are doing is for a greater purpose, it's for, we're making real impact, and we continue day on with the work, because these things, they happen, they come, they go. We don't want to lose motivation.
Some of the investigations or probes or allegations are still an overhang on the group. How are you assuaging the investors' concerns in these times?
So I think, and this is based on some of the interactions that I've also had with investors over the past couple of months. I think there's a clear understanding with the investors that, with the Hindenburg report, everything that was said and allegated against us was sort of just rehashing old things again. And a lot of investors really appreciated the kind of communication that we've done over the last 18 months. At the end of the day, not a single investor's query will be left unanswered. We were proactively reaching out to investors after each and every report or article or anything that was coming out. And with all the performance from the financial side also, they were very clear that, look, this is a very good asset. All of the companies, they have strong infrastructure assets, and the leadership team has given us enough confidence by communicating with us enough. I think that's kind of helped actually investors to realize that, to look beyond this and actually look at the asset, look at the leadership team, what kind of cash we're generating, and what kind of growth we're doing.
You're overseeing construction of a $2.1 billion airport in the outskirts of Mumbai. Now, as I understand, the phase 1 construction is on time. However, my question is it too little too late? Because the way at which the expansion, the aviation market in India is expanding, would you have to work on the remaining phases at a much faster pace than earlier envisaged?
No, absolutely. I think you're right. If you look historically, when the initial privatization of both Bombay and Delhi happened together in 2006, Bombay as an airport was actually larger than Delhi. And it was growing at the same pace as Delhi was growing, but it hit a roadblock because it has a capacity limitation, being a single runway airport. And Delhi kept growing. It's now about 75-80 million passengers per annum. The latent demand of Bombay as a city is not stopped growing. People still want to fly. The ability to consume, ability to spend on travel is still very, very high and is still growing at the same rate. It's just that they don't have the option, or they don't have the infrastructure to be able to take flights. So definitely, when it comes to your question on too little, too late, yes. The good thing is we're getting there. Based on the initial conversations and what our forecasts are for the first year itself, once we start operations, we'll be pretty much exhausting 60-70% of the capacity of the new airport. And given that it takes anywhere from 2.5 to 3 years from start of a new project to commissioning, we will immediately need to start phase 2 of another 30 million passengers as soon as we finish phase 1.
You're overseeing the group's defense business. Now, India is a country with the world's second largest standing army. What scope are you seeing in the sector and how are you going about it?
We primarily are focusing on areas where we think we can make a significant impact. That's why we're not chasing large capital projects like submarines or fighter aircraft, which we were in the past, but we've sort of redone our strategy now. Our strategy is focused on 3 things. The first thing is around unmanned systems, so unmanned aerial vehicles, ground vehicles, water and submarine vehicles. Our first milestone we hit earlier this year when we delivered the first drone to the armed forces. This was a male category drone. We have the capability to actually manufacture and design all the way from male category to micro rotocopters, which, small copters, you can use it for agricultural purposes as well. The second area around our defense ecosystem is on small arms. Small arms is very important because we see that based on the current equipment that the Indian armed forces have, a lot of modernization needs to happen, and we're very lucky that we've been able to win contracts to supply to them with an indigenization number of over 80%, and our target is by the end of the contract we want to hit to 100% levels of indigenization, so the entire value capture will happen within India. And the third part of our portfolio around defense is on ammunition. We are the only private sector ammunition manufacturer in India. On the small caliber side, we manufacture, and it's up and running already. We'll manufacture over a couple of 100 million rounds a year, which will be able to serve about half of the current yearly needs of the Indian Armed Forces. And we're also expanding into medium and large calibers. That sort of ties up the entire portfolio. Definitely when you look at scale, once all of this is up and running at 100% capacity, this will be a very large scale business in itself. As we actually are building out this capacity, we're also looking at new opportunities around defense where, cybersecurity, looking at systems, mission systems, not just manufacturing as an OEM, one drone or one equipment, but actually tying the entire thing together into a battlefield mission system. That's sort of more future looking, and then you have what we're manufacturing today.
So at this young age, you are running some of the big businesses in the region. At the same time, the chairman, who is in his early 60s, an age at which many people contemplate retirement, is putting in 18-hour work days. Do you think he feels confident, or you as G2 feel confident that if he decides to take a break, the G2 will be able to handle the businesses?
Yeah, I think on a lighter side, I don't think he's going to be taking a break anytime soon. For us, when we sit together as G2, the most important thing around this is self-realization. I think we all realize as a group of 4 of us that put together our capabilities are not going to be able to match up to his, because he's is a once in a generation kind of entrepreneur. But what we can do better is, with the access and resources that we have, how do we train ourselves in aspects that we can control better? And we've identified, on being successful, you need 3 things. You need the right people, you need to be able to handle the right people, and then you need to manage risk. If we are able to do these 3 things as a family successfully, definitely we'll be able to grow. I don't think all of us are there yet in terms of capability on these 3, but this is where we're working with the right mentors to train us.